I grew up observing a prevailing emphasis on fairer skin or increasing narratives of, outer beauty,
Mhm.
And I understand that these fixations are sometimes associated with historical events and its impact, but it bothered me. What happens when you have a supportive environment at home that is created by parents and caregivers?
Right.
uh, Children feel empowered to explore and express themselves more freely. And they walk out in the world with a confidence that is really authentic.
Mhm.
In this day and age, especially of social media and external validation, I definitely feel a greater need for a narrative that instills a greater sense of confidence in who you are. And additionally, I recognize the power of storytelling. And, through stories, you can explore unfamiliar perspectives and learn about different experiences. But my family was really steeped in traditional gender roles, and there were clear societal expectations from girls.
Mhm.
However, my parents, in their remarkable way, remember they were part of that joint
Right.
setup. They fought and they shattered these patterns, and paved the way for us to break from free from these constraints.
Mhm.
uh, with four daughters to raise, I have three sisters, we have
Mhm.
four daughters. My parents, they made a conscious decision to prioritize education and development. When we talk about creativity, it's not
Mhm.
a talent for me, it's a way of operating.
Mhm.
Sometimes you are looking at things which seem very obvious to you, and creativity is just for me looking at the world in different ways. So I sort of attribute the writing of the book and my characters going back to that thought process. I see this unabashed joy and pride on their faces, which I truly believe that they are as much part of this, process, but they put it on me, and they feel really, really happy.
Hi, viewers. My name is Upesh Jain. Greetings from the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm the host of the Exec Talk channel, a forum I started to talk to CEOs, executives, and other luminaries about their journeys and distill their experiences and learnings for our viewers' benefit. Today, we are going to talk to Sonali Patodia, a budding author, regarding her book titled You're Truly One of a Kind. But before we do that, I'd like to tell you who Sonali really is. She is a commerce graduate who has a master's in marketing from Symbiosis Institute of Management in India, based on which she brings a unique blend of creativity and strategic thinking to her work. Her diverse experiences of working as a freelance commercial artist, designing brand logos, working in an ad agency, her previous startup called 123greetings.com, all point to a talented creative person. She has also written in the creative space for a handful of nonprofits in India. Besides that, she worked at a mobile startup, Shopular, in their content management space. This was later acquired by Rakuten USA. She has been an active PTA member for the last decade, wearing many hats, from leading the team to increasing engagement in the community. She's also part of a core team of volunteers for Arune Foundation, a women led nonprofit which works to promote beach safety along the Pacific coastline. She calls herself a maverick artist. Art is her escape, her sanctuary. She loves watching shows on animals, traveling, and reading, all ingredients that lay the foundation for a prolific author. Although she was not born with a quill in her hand, Sonali's passion for storytelling has always burned bright, driving her to explore its profound impact on shaping young minds. Motivated by a desire to address societal issues, Sonali harnesses the power of storytelling to convey complex ideas in simple yet impactful ways. Her debut book, You're Truly One of a Kind, stands as a testament to this commitment, aiming to celebrate individuality and the richness of diversity. Sonali's fascination with cultural traditions runs deep, inspiring her to find innovative ways to preserve and share them with future generations. Born and raised in India, she now calls California her home, where she resides with her husband and two teenage daughters. With an unwavering dedication to make a positive difference through her work, Sonali wants to continue to push the boundaries of storytelling and hopes to bring a positive change. Sonali, welcome to the Exec Talk channel. And I, for one, am excited to know about your life experiences and your foray into writing this book.
Thank you so much, Upesh. It's such an honor to be here and talking to you. And thank you for the beautiful, sort of summary on my life. It sort of had a nice flashback when you were, talking about it. So thank you again for that
Yeah.
and making time to have me.
Yeah. So, as they say, there's no smoke without fire. So, there has to be some fire inside of you that led you to the creation of this piece of work. So, so Sonali, tell me about your early years and influences. Tell me more about that phase of life. And if you can, define creativity for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are the characteristics of a creative person? And did you recall having those traits from the beginning? I mean, it's quite a bit. It's a loaded question, but
Yeah.
I'll let you. Yeah.
I'm going to try.
Yeah.
About my life in early years, I was born in Calcutta in India, now called Kolkata.
Hmm.
My father belonged to a business class family, and they were a well-established brand in yarn, spinning, and dyeing. And my father, to expand the business, he took the business to a faraway little small town in Bihar, now Jharkhand, and he set up more manufacturing units there. So my sisters and I, we grew up on this sprawling estate, over acres and acres of land where our house was built, and we were surrounded by the factory setup. And there were many workers who would come from neighboring states of Orissa and Bengal, and they lived on the factory site. So honestly, that was my extended family that I grew up with.
Hmm.
And my father was very accomplished, a master at his job, and creative at the word go. And he is calm as, silent. He's silent and calm as running water. And he has handled many a precarious situations with a lot of ease. And I really, really admire that in him. Even in later phase of his life, when our business was going a little downhill, he really stood ground strongly, So I would say we were very privileged as in having that life, but our father never let us get a whiff of it. Most of our afternoons after schools were spent with the workers on the factory site around spinning machines, and I would relish their rotis dipped in their teas. And, I think that has been my privilege to have experienced that oneness.
Hmm.
My mother, on the other hand, comes from a very illustrious family herself, most of them lawyers and judges. And even though she's traditional, but her vision for life was really out of the box and for the time and space we grew up in. And to have settled in such a small place, but she
Hmm.
owned it with her creativity and her passion for creating this world for us, an experience that I would not trade anything for. And she found a perfect partner in my father, who, even before she planted a seed of an idea, he was, ready, watering that idea and making it grow.
Hmm.
And most importantly, I think my mother taught us the value of relationships, and how to prioritize people and relationships in our lives. In 1988, we moved back to Kolkata to live permanently with my joint family. We were a family of 18 living under the same roof.
Hmm.
And that's where she taught me how to navigate, the many shades of relationships. Definitely makes me a more resilient and empathetic person.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
so that's quite a rich background, if I were to use the word,
Uh,
and seems like there were several sources
mhm.
of inspiration and different. kind of traits that you could weave into your, fabric of your personality.
Mhm.
So, and looks like both your parents had a creative gene in them,
They
and
did.
that kind of contributed
Yeah.
somewhere, somewhat to your upbringing.
Yeah.
So that's really a very good background, kind of a good setup for somebody creative to kind of grow and prosper.
Yeah.
So, what were your aspirations as a young adult? You were pursuing a degree in marketing. How did you imagine yourself applying what you were studying to real life, at that time?
Yeah.
Um, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, at that time, I think when I'd stepped into, I always wanted to be a doctor, and all my life until I stepped into college, I had aligned all my efforts to, study medicine. But there was this one summer that happened, and it changed the course of my life, and I feel for the good. When I found my calling in marketing and truly speaking, connecting with people. And so at that time, I was drawn to this dynamic intersection of creativity, strategy, and consumer behavior, which was really, really appealed to me. And I was constantly trying to apply those in real life scenarios. And one that stands out and that I have reapplied over the professional career, let's say, or even personal career over and over again,
Mhm,
is crafting compelling stories in marketing. And my passion actually also led me to create an e-commerce platform that I built myself as a passion project. I created a platform which was pan-India to
mhm,
deliver fresh flowers and gifts to folks living abroad to be sent to their loved ones in India.
mhm,
And I connected with my customers at an emotional level,
mhm,
because these were folks who'd not see their families for a long time, and I became sort of that medium for them to connect. And I remember even delivering orders
mhm,
when sometimes the payment system would fail,
mhm,
and valuing emotions over everything else. And my customer base really grew and remained loyal. My work experience with the next two startups tell a similar story, and always rooted in the passion for creativity, strategy, and connecting with others.
mhm.
And my book now is yet another extension of the same aspirations. Yeah.
Yeah. So, there's always the technical side of doing anything,
Hmm.
but I firmly believe that emotions make it richer and deeper.
Yeah.
So, I think consumer behavior is also a function of
Right.
emotions. And, to your point of people living overseas, you kind of compress that distance for
Yeah.
them, that they were unable to travel or surpass,
Yeah.
and connected the two. So that's
Yeah.
wonderful, and that sort of came in handy as a springboard for your foray into book writing.
Hmm.
Uh,
Absolutely.
so in your early career,
Hmm.
what factors and milestones stand out in your opinion? What
Hmm.
made you tick and guide you to where you stand today? I mean, you've sort of answered some aspects of that question, but if
Yeah.
there's other aspects to it, it'll be great to know.
Thank you for that question. I think there's a really large aspect, and this is an aspect really close to my heart. If I reflect back on my career, I think I can't help but attribute much of my journey to the years spent growing up in India, and especially in the joint setup from
Mhm,
1988 to the time I left India to be here. Um, my family was really steeped in traditional gender roles, and there were clear societal expectations from girls.
mhm.
However, my parents, in their remarkable way, remember they were part of that joint
Right.
setup. They fought and they shattered these patterns. and paved the way for us to break from free from these, constraints.
Hmm.
Uh, with four daughters to raise, I have three sisters. We have
Hmm.
four daughters. My parents, they made a conscious decision to prioritize education and development, and this was evident from the outset.
Hmm.
As my mom, especially, she fought fiercely for our education, despite residing in a smallish place in the first early years. She convinced my dad to send us across the state border to West Bengal every single day for us to be able to study in a decent school, and recognizing the importance of education in shaping our futures. Books, I think, became our companions and our getaways, our windows to the outer world.
Hmm.
And again, goes back to my parents' efforts in exposing us to a world of literature. I vividly remember we had to travel a great distance once a month to procure books. So the impactful milestone for sure has been the unwavering support,
Hmm.
and trust my parents had in us. In a household where the notion of women working outside the house was still rare, my parents broke ground by allowing me to step into the professional realm. What happens when you have a supportive environment at home that is created by parents and caregivers?
Right.
uh, Children feel empowered to explore and express themselves more freely, and they walk out in the world with a confidence that is really authentic. And I would say that was true to me. Yeah, and my
Absolutely.
sisters. Yeah,
Yeah, it becomes the wind behind their sails. And
absolutely.
yeah,
Yes,
so
yes.
that's a subtle but very important point,
Yeah,
that having
yeah,
that freedom in
yeah.
every which way, and to think beyond uh,
Yes,
a limit, always yields dividends.
yes.
So that's great. So now shifting gears towards your book,
Yeah.
what led you to thinking about writing a book? I know you were creative, and the human side, the soft side appealed to you,
Yeah.
and but taking on book writing is not a small task.
Yeah.
So I'll start with that question and embellish upon it. So, what led you to thinking about writing a book?
Yeah, my inspiration for my book is rooted in two significant aspects of my life. Again, I talked about me growing up in India, which has incredible diversity. However, despite the diversity, the Indian society, I grew up observing a prevailing emphasis on fairer skin, or increasing narratives of, outer beauty.
Mhm.
And I understand that these fixations are sometimes associated with historical events and its impact, but it bothered me. I also experienced it firsthand. And the need to break away from such narrow beauty standards was born inside me, and the seed was planted. It's funny that it took me all these
Mhm.
years to sort of write the book now. Second, the year 2020 exposed my entire family, including my two younger girls,
Mhm.
to the heightened social unrest, the chaos in this country and worldwide. There were a lot of questions hovering in our heads, and my daughters actually questioned their safety. And so we felt restless as a family. We dug information, we educated ourselves, we read more history. We felt the dire need to channel our angst through creative ways, and hopefully in a way that would impact others in a positive manner.
Mhm.
Uh, and so, we scribbled and we dabbled into a lot of creative things that year. Everybody had luxury of time. We were more home, and so we wrote a play, which became the premise for the book.
Mhm.
And combining these twofold experiences, my book "You Are Truly One of a Kind," it serves as a simple yet powerful narrative that encourages, readers to embrace their uniqueness and celebrate the diversity that makes each individual special.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wonderful. That actually is quite moving, if you will. Uh, a lot of people talk about it.
Hmm.
You refused to be a silent bystander and decided to do something about it.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad your family felt the same way as well. So, I mean, while you've mentioned the notion of uh, you know discrimination based on skin color and
Hmm.
beauty and outward beauty and so
Yeah.
on and so forth, how did you come up with the idea
Hmm.
of the book? I mean, which has pretty prominent characters from Indian
Yeah.
mythology
Yeah.
portrayed in it.
Yeah.
So tell us a little about that.
Yeah. Favorite question. So there isn't a huge story, but um, as you mentioned, and for the sake of your wider audience,
Mhm,
the book has two main characters, Krishna and Radha. Krishna is the Indian god. He's the avatar of Vishnu, who is the preserver of the universe in the Indian, say, culture or religion. And Krishna has always been such a charming character, and most of us who've grown up in India and even outside have, heard his stories, and we've lived with his, many adventures and his charming ways.
mhm,
Uh, so in my household, Krishna is a favorite. He's one of our main man. He's a main man,
mhm,
and Krishna and Radha, my children, since even before my kids were born, I used to have back in India. My father again. We used to have elaborate Janmashtami celebrations. Janmashtami is celebrating the birth of Krishna. And so, just to sort of relive those moments, I started celebrating Janmashtami first in a small form in my house, in my apartment, and slowly I had this tribe of people, and the event, the phenomenon, it grew.
mhm,
And it was not just it wasn't the theme of the event was not religious. It was more about talking or gaining inspiration from his life stories. And we would do a lot of singing and dancing and music. And so in the year 2020, when we were sort of going through this motion of understanding discrimination, um, Janmashtami was approaching in August, and we were like, oh, we can't have an in-person event this year. So we
mhm.
devised a Zoom Janmashtami, where again I had invited the same, friends and
Right.
family,
Yeah.
and we had, a lot of performances that we had pre-recorded, and we were playing it and all of that. And I asked my girls, what do you want to do, and that's when, since the questions of, the societal questions were looming large in our heads, we actually sat down and wrote a play. And so when you say how did the idea came, I think I didn't have to blink an eye, and it came very organically. Krishna and Radha were already there. And I
Mhm,
always talked about when we can revere and worship, a god who's dark skinned, be it Krishna, be it Shiva, be it Kali, then why discriminate, between people who were created by the god, by the same god? And this is the question that we repetitively tried to, flush in our brains. And so my kids wrote a little play which they enacted in my backyard, and we
mhm,
showed that in
mhm,
our Zoom event.
mhm,
Uh, that play stayed with me for a longer time. And I wanted to share it with more people, not just plug it on social media. And then the family just, they were on my case that you got to write this, you have to translate this in a book. And I said, I don't know much about book writing. And they're like, don't worry, we'll learn. We'll all learn in the process. And I think the family is invested in the book, in the theme of the book, and the message that it sort of gives out to the
mhm.
reader. Yeah, that's how it happened.
Okay. Yeah.
Very
I
organic.
mean, it seems like you were already quite interleaved with these characters, and they just became a means to the end.
I
And
just want to say here that when we talk about creativity, it's not
Mhm,
a talent for me, it's a way of operating.
mhm.
Sometimes you are looking at things which seem very obvious to you, and creativity is just for me looking at the world in different ways. So I sort of attribute the writing of the book and my characters going back to that thought process.
Well put. And a thought just occurred to me. I mean, what better character than Krishna
Yeah, yeah,
to portray what you wanted to portray? Because
yeah,
he's regarded as he has that reverence about him. He's
yes.
a, a representation of youth, of mischief, of accomplishment and romanticism to a certain extent. So all these things could be leveraged and to tell a story,
And
right?
if I may add, I've not read the Bhagavad Gita, the discourse given by Krishna to Arjun. I haven't read it too deeply, but I do know that one of the chapters, he does talk about the oneness of all human beings.
Mhm.
So if somebody has to really, really tie my book to, why you have Krishna or why you have a God questioning that, this is not a book that has any religious aspect to it. They are my protagonists who are telling my story through their lens.
Right.
Yeah.
Well put. Well put. So, thank you for that. That's,
Yeah, sure. Thank you for
it seems
questioning.
like a crescendo, a natural build-up to that took your ideas and thoughts to
Yeah,
fruition. And
thank
of course, your kids who enacted that play.
you.
Um, so who was the audience that you were aiming for, if you were in the first place, and why?
Definitely, I wrote the book keeping younger children in mind uh, because I believe in the importance of instilling a sense of inclusivity and acceptance from an early age.
Mhm,
In this day and age, especially of social media and external validation, I definitely feel a greater need for a narrative that instills a greater sense of confidence in who you are. And additionally, I recognize the power of storytelling. And, through stories, you can explore unfamiliar perspectives and learn about different experiences. But let me say this, when someone asks me, what is the age group for your book? I
mhm,
always say 4 to 400
mhm,
because I recommend it for adults as well. Research shows that adults who read children's books, it boosts their creativity,
mhm.
uh, it reduces stress, unleash our imagination, and reconnect us to our childhood.
Yeah,
So please read more children's
of
books.
course.
That's
And widens their thought process also.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and that's a
opens up
shameless, yeah,
the.
that's a shameless plug I have. But here's the book for your audience. Not sure if they can see it properly, but maybe you can, later
No,
show them.
that's great because see, kids themselves are impressionable and sometimes, for lack of a better word, confused about their own, being and
Yeah,
personalities.
yeah,
And not to mention the external forces you mentioned, like social media and
yeah,
peer pressure and so on
yeah,
and so forth.
yeah,
So in some ways, the messaging is to be comfortable in your own skin
absolutely.
and be confident in who you are.
Yeah.
So uh, so that's great. So how has the post book release experience been for you? And how has it been received by the intended audience? I mean, what are people saying to you? What kind of what's the spectrum of um, kind of comments or uh,
Yeah.
hints or insinuations or what have you that have been made after the release of the book?
Um, yeah. From the time I wrote the book and the amount of time it took for it to be published, it was almost 2 years. And during this time, I carried it inside me like a baby and it protected from the outer world. And when it was time to pop, which was last September,
Hmm.
I was stricken with a multitude of questions, and the biggest one being, who's going to read my book, let alone buy it?
Hmm. Hmm.
I knew nothing about the industry. I was learning on the go, growing very organically, making connections, and but um, one thing led to another, and wonderful opportunities presented for me to showcase the book to a wider audience, and it has been unfathomable for me.
Hmm.
In the past fortnight, I've had the privilege of reading my book to over 700 children across the Palo Alto Unified District schools.
Hmm.
And it has been a point in my life that I will, never forget. Endorsed by librarians, across the schools. I learned something new about my book every time. And
Hmm.
so I come away feeling like a better person and also more tolerant of younger children, if I may say, after all these years.
Right.
Uh, my biggest takeaway from this experience is to be authentic, to be true to yourself, to believe in yourself, and trust in the unfolding of the universe.
Hmm.
Uh, and then we open ourselves to this world of endless possibilities and opportunities for growth and happiness.
Hmm.
So the book has been received. I had several sort of, thoughts and questions in my own head. People are going to ask me about who is Krishna. Oh, he's a god, he has superpowers and things like that. But no, the simple message that resonated with, I had kids 5-year-old, in my audience who would simulate the entire experience, the reading of the book, and come and tell me, thank you for writing the book.
Hmm.
It really, resonates with me. It connects me because my family, we are a blended family, and this similar message I have received from parents. I was at a reading at a bookstore recently, and I didn't know who my audience were going to be, but it seemed like there were a lot of moms with toddlers, moms and dads with toddlers. So I knew that the kids are not going to sort of be so engaged in the book, but trust me, when I started reading, all the moms, all the parents, they kind of stopped what they were doing and they were listening, and then they came back and some bought the book, some uplifted me with their kind words. So
Right.
I have received so much love. I have to mention a time when my mind, it was in doubt regarding the book,
Hmm.
and my husband, who despite not having read my manuscript, he offered me reassurance, and that my words, that the written words, are not just ink on paper, and they are timeless treasures that will remain in this space and time. And so his words reminded me, they remained with me and helped me move ahead with confidence.
Hmm.
Um, a librarian recently told me that you've done service to the world by writing this book. So I just take all of this with a lot of grace, and yeah,
As you should, and that's the beauty of any piece of creative work,
yeah,
that there's an intent with which you do it,
yeah,
but then the world interprets it in their own way, and
yes,
which is
it's
beyond your imagination. So
yes, yes,
yeah.
yes. And
So
as you're so right, yeah, any piece of art, or creative process is so subjective. And the interpretation can go either ways. I mean, there will be people who may not connect with it,
mhm,
but, the interpretation part is really very intriguing and exciting. I'm really enjoying that. Yeah.
that is wonderful. And not to forget that you're making an impact
Yeah.
on humankind and society and children who are, of course, part of society. But uh, I think when your effort is amplified and makes a positive impact on
Mm.
people, that can be really fulfilling and
Yeah.
satisfying. So
So
kudos for that,
much.
Um, so now that you wrote the book, it was released. I'd like to ask you, what impact did it have on your daughters? To a certain extent, they uh, had something to do with the writing of it in their own way. But now that it was formalized and written, um, what impact did it have on them?
That's a tough one to answer. And while I hope that I have been able to positively impact them, I
Hmm.
firmly believe that they have been the real influences in my life. And influence within our family is a two-way street.
Hmm.
But to your question, I feel I see this unabashed joy and pride on their faces, which I truly believe that they are as much part of this, process, but they put it on me, and they feel really, really happy. And nobody is perfect. I wasn't perfect. I had different views and perspectives in life. I evolved. I chose to look at things differently, and that's what I think I would like them to do. And just open up, have open-mindedness and curiosity, and yeah, being themselves, and again being authentic to who they are.
Right.
But the family is generally very, very happy, and so
Yeah,
is my husband.
appreciate it.
So
Yeah.
I would say that, yeah,
But as they say, nothing in life goes to waste, right?
yeah,
And I'm very sure uh, this would have a very positive impact. They say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
right.
So that's because of a reason. So I think you have knowingly or unknowingly done things that will yield you dividend years later.
Oh,
So that's my humble opinion, but you probably see this firsthand.
value that. Yeah.
Yeah. And Sonali, what creative work do you have next? What do you have up your sleeve in the future now that you've done this?
Definitely trying to write my second, and it's been hard not being able to focus much,
Hmm.
but trying. And a part of my brain is always fantasizing about some art project or the other.
Hmm.
I don't always get to it, but I partially live in that space, and it keeps me going. I am very excited about the different possibilities that have opened up with this book.
Hmm.
And I think at present, again, that's creativity. I'm trying to take it to as many channels and, in different ways possible. I just recently collaborated with a South Asian ice cream brand.
Hmm.
I did a reading at their store
Hmm.
to celebrate Holi. My book has a reference to the festive
Yes.
colors, Holi. And
Hmm.
so I think, and it was wonderful, there were kids and parents having their ice creams and sort of, listening to my book. So I think I'm finding creative ways to take the book to as far as I can, because I'm self-marketing myself. So
Hmm.
taking it as it comes. Yeah. So I'm very excited at the different possibilities.
Yeah.
But
So there's no formula, but you let
no,
the creativity unfold as it does naturally, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Yeah.
Okay. Any parting comments for people who are sitting on the fence to bring forth their creativity? Because I'm sure there's a lot. And after that, I would really, want you to recite the poem that's in your book, if you can. So,
Definitely.
yeah.
With pleasure. Um, there's a saying that, creativity is a capability of human beings. And when we are born, we are all of us have this capability. But I feel like some of us forget to use it. And creativity is again subjective. There is no right or wrong way to do it. So just do it,
Mhm.
whatever it is that is that you've been wanting to, the startup that you've been wanting to go for, or uh, be it a more tangible painting or something that you've been trying to dabble into. And I understand the insecurity of not knowing how to paint or not knowing to do a certain thing, but I think creativity is about learning new skills, and it is about experimentation. And yeah, just do it.
Take
uh,
that first step. Yeah.
yeah, take that first step. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Easier said than done, but just
It is.
I
Yes.
think the issue generally is everybody over engineers the problem and wants to answer all the uh, unknown questions and the uncertainty
Yeah.
uh, before they
Or,
start. And
yeah, or
the
trying
formula is to start and then
yeah.
figure it out. So,
Yeah, or trying to get to a finished product that is so much in your head that you've envisioned. But trust me, the process itself can be very, very satisfying, once you start. So, yeah.
okay, with that, if we could uh, get those few lines from your book.
So I have a little poem that sort of summarizes the theme of my book. It's here. I know we're like, sorry, it's not too visible on your camera, but I'm
That's
going to,
okay. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I'm going to start. I'm me. You are you. I love the way I am. You should love yourself too. From my skin color to how I look. My outside doesn't define me. I'm truly one of a kind, heart, body, and mind. You are you, I am me. Together we make this world a more beautiful place to be.
beautiful. Yeah, very nicely done. Thank you
Thank
so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Really, I really enjoyed talking to you. I really like the way you shaped your creative journey. And, after understanding the backdrop from where you came and what you stand for, I could really understand your labor of love here. So, thanks for sharing it with us. It's really inspiring for people too. I want to wish you the best for anything you embark on, and I really appreciate you spending the time with me and my viewers. Thank you
I
very much.
enjoyed this so much. Thank you so much, and thanks for having me. Lovely talking to you.
Take care. Bye bye.